we would like to tell you about a project called Replay Memories. It's the authors of this project are us, actually, Gordon and myself, Andres Jarach. The producer is Chloé Jarry, and it was produced by Camera Lucida, the company, Novel Lab, Gebruet Beats, that's our German co-producer. It's a mouthful. It had the support from the CNC. It's co-produced by INA, the French Audiovisual Archive Institute, and we're very delighted because recently we also received an award called INALAB, so that's further support. So it's going along nicely. So this project revolves around three historical events: 9/11, the 9/11 attacks, the Fukushima disaster, and the fall of the Berlin Wall. We chose those three events because there are lots of pictures of those events online. It's three events, historical events that we all have in mind because of all the images that were broadcast in the media. The internet has become the first place we go to for information. We are constantly reaching for our phones to browse information about what we want to know. Hence the question, what is to become of our memory? So our project, Replay Memories, interrogates how we relate to our memory, and it leads us to confront the way we see history. The main question around which the project revolves is what becomes of our collective memory when it is manipulated by algorithms. So through this connected and web VR connection experience, we offer a vertiginous dive into the memory of the internet. So, after putting on the headset, you are geolocalized. As Andres just said, it's a VPR experience. So the whole point of this setting is to have 4 different stages in the experience. First of all, you can browse a website in real time on a given subject. Then you can go back in time in the memory of the internet. Then third, you can compare your query with queries from other countries. I'll explain how we do this. And finally, the fourth stage is to live again through, or reenact, if you will, a moment of the historical event, but today. At the origin of the project, there was something that we were sort of obsessed with, namely, how is today's collective memory being built, and how will that of tomorrow and that of our children be built? Where will it come from? So we wanted to offer this in a VR experience. We wanted to confront our memories with archival images stemming from queries. So we met with quite a lot of people, researchers. We met with Mr. Matthias Blanc. He is a so-called image sociologist. His specialty is to study the way we relate physically, our body relates to and reacts to the showing of images. This is what you see is a giant iPad, basically. It's a touch screen, a giant touch screen, and with it you can edit images, you can put them together, you can organize them into a specific reading, the reading of an event, because you manipulate the images with your hand, but it's very physical because you have to move around, you can reduce, you can enhance the images, you can, enlarge them. So it's really a new kind of relationship to images, and that's the work of that sociologist. So we thought it was, it was a great source of inspiration. Another source of inspiration was obviously Minority Report, this sort of ecstatic moment where Tom Cruise uses this sort of screen thing, and it seemed like the future back then, at the beginning of the years 2000, but it was sort of a dream, and now it's a dream come true with VR. So we had to create a world in which or a universe in which we could host these archives and videos. So we came up with a universe made of fonts, of typography, because it symbolizes the processing of data, of big data, for instance. Also, thanks to these signs, these ciphers, you can move around geographically. It's kind of like a map. On the left-hand side, it could be the American continent. In front of us, this sort of zebra crossing could be Europe. And on the right-hand side, you have the Cyrillic alphabet, maybe the East. And then all the way to the right, you have an Asian, Japanese sentence here. So this gives us the opportunity to locate ourselves and position ourselves, geographically speaking. So this is a very first model of the project. What we're seeing here is a 3D universe made up only of fonts, of letters. And all these, it's kind of like a street, but all the buildings are made of letters. Another question that came from other experiences is how to use 2D images in a 3D universe. At the very beginning, we did like everybody else, we made them float in space, those 2D images, but we felt that it wasn't quite convincing. And it was certainly virtual, but it was not reality, because in reality, images don't just float in space, do they? Plus, archival, images are not necessarily of good quality. Most of them are in 4:3 format for most of these events. So the challenge was to integrate them in this 3D world, this font world. So to get some kind of consistency out of it. In Replay Memories, the archives actually form a literal bubble which surround us, and they are stuck to a sort of touchable membrane, and they isolate us from the outside world. It's as if the archives are enclosing us in our certitudes, in our certainties. We're basically cordoned off from the world in our memories. So we manipulate the images and the archives as so many palpable, touchable elements. So this was at the beginning of our research, but we thought it would be interesting to show you this mix. This was not quite on a bubble yet, but so when the idea of the bubble came around, for all the reasons that we've just exposed, we thought something that would be very interesting would be to travel through time thanks to virtual reality. Still within the bubble, from within the bubble, by being geolocalized today, 2017, online, but you're in Paris, obviously. You launch a request, your query, and you get a response with images of 9/11 on Google. So you have a series of pictures coming up, and if I walk in the bubble, I go back in time. We feel it's very interesting. Andres, if you could tell them more about it. Tell us more about going backwards and going forwards. Well, when we were preparing the project, we met with historians and we did our own research on the web. For 9/11, for instance, in the US, the images that are from 2001, it's obviously the towers, the people jumping to their death, and the sheer cloud of dust. And the more you evolve in time, the more the images are positive. not the image of the event itself, but the images of around the event. You know, you see less buildings on fire and more firemen, more saviors, more heroes, and it's a way to heal through memory and to rebuild the country. The following step in the experience foreign stage is exiting out of the bubble and to go to another place in this 3D world and create another bubble. And for instance, the first thing that I experimented in the research work is to go to Argentina to see the archives there. The surprise is that, well, Argentina was not very different from France, but for Uruguay, for instance, I'm still talking about the 9/11 queries. In Uruguay, when you search the Google Uruguay for 9/11, the first answers that come up is conspiracy. That's instead of Argentina, where it was usual pictures, but in Uruguay, for instance, was conspiracies. That's why it was. That's how it was experienced there. So we've all dreamt one day of living through a historic event, or reliving it. So, coming out of the Argentina bubble, let's say we want to go to the New York bubble. So you find yourself in a New York street, filmed 360 degrees, so a few steps away from where the World Trade Center used to stand. So, and a bit like On the Wings of Desire by Wim Wenders, when you look at a passerby, you will hear his or her voice telling you about that day, about her experience or his experience on that day. So, and then in your back, you will be able to turn around and look at 2D images in this 3D world that show sort of a testimony of what people went through on that day. So this is a 2D image of in the current environment in that New York street that was reproduced in 360 degrees. So drphotograph.com is a website that collects pictures by amateurs, by the man on the street, and there are many family pictures also, and the idea is to replace their motto is take a picture of the past into the present time. So basically we use that as well. So the idea of replay memory is to create a new memory. So as a conclusion, to us, the virtual reality experiences should not be just about being somewhere else, which is very often the case. Basically, you are being taken away to another place where you can look around. We're convinced that the interaction of the body with a new given environment with images and archival videos is in itself a new way to experiment with virtual reality. So that's our project, Replay Memories. Thank you for your attention. Good afternoon, I'm Bruno Mazzi. I work for INA, the National Audiovisual Institute of France. Just to add to what Gordon and Andres showed us, at INA, we're supporting the project, and we are supporting also new experiences and new ways to conserve and preserve the archives. So we organized last week, actually, a sort of hackathon, for those who know it. And just a few words to tell you that we are launching actually new training courses that will start this fall, this year. And the idea is to train people on all the aspects of virtual reality, 360-degree view, different animation techniques. So you can go on our website for all the information. Thank you. Do we have questions from the room? Do you use online archives? Well, it's actually we almost mostly use web online archives because obviously we want the queries to be real-time queries. We want what creates your bubble to be the main material, to be the web.
C'est une recherche, c'est impossible de trouver les paramétrages de quels étaient les classements des images.
It's impossible to find the ranking of images back in 2010, but you can set the the parameters for certain years.
Sur les classements d'aujourd'hui, des images produites jusqu'à 2011.
But for instance, you can try to find the ranking, today's ranking, for the pictures that were taken back in 2010. Another question here. Good afternoon. I have a question. Regarding the archives that you selected, is there such a thing as the point of view?
Est-ce que ça c'est pris en considération dans les archives sélectionnées
En tout cas, vous aurez la possibilité d'aller voir
taken into account? Well, thanks to geolocation,
des archives du web dans des pays du Proche-Orient, par exemple.
You'll be able to see, for instance, the archives as they were consulted or built, for instance, in the Middle East. The idea, if that was the question, you can have the point of view of someone in the Middle East. So the idea being to compare how we build our memories here, and how we build our memories, or they build their memories in Korea, for instance. For instance, if you were to type in 9/11/2001 in Korea, they actually show you images of a reality TV show. If you go to Afghanistan and type that query, the responses that you get, the hits that you get, is how the CIA conspired to hit the US, So we're not selecting the archives, we're putting you in that bubble, giving you the opportunity to live the experience again, or relive the experience, but in the light of a different context, if you will. Maybe there's something I haven't understood, but regarding the 360 degree, the presentation of the archives, how are you going to present them? If I understand the concept and I find it really interesting, but really the displaying, the 360 degree displaying of that, that's what I don't get. Well, for instance, the deer photograph feature, you saw it was an old picture superimposed on the reality, on the day, on the vision of the day, if you will. So basically, the idea is to... It's the archive, it's the point of view of the archive, which serves as the starting point for your point of view. So basically, it's a picture taken from the street. You then have the very same position on the street, and the archive is superimposed on what you see today to give a will it be in 3D? Well, not the archive, but the 360 will be 3D. However, you can also maybe also we can add like a cloud of smoke coming in, artificial cloud of smoke, just maybe to reenact the experience. Well, the image will be 2D image, but as we saw on the picture, the buildings, the size of the buildings will correspond to the size of the building on the photo, to have a correspondence. So it's sort of a white, sort of a flat screen in a 360-degree space. So that's the end of the experience.
Travail de comparaison et de questionnement de la mémoire. En fait, l'idée c'est que
But the idea is that
des murs d'images, mais qui
we want to
deviennent
be
un peu,
surrounded by a wall of pictures.
Avec les premiers prototypes qu'on a fait.
And with the first prototypes that we've created, it's really physically, you're really wrapped in pictures, and it's a complete experience. Thank you very much.